our president, Pam Price, live and direct from Norway, who will give the welcome, and followed by Pam, Katherine Callingham will start the presentation. Pam.
I won't say for that.
Okay, well, welcome again to the Álamos History Association. Álamos has its mysteries. The ghosts are one of its mysteries. The tunnels are another mystery. And we're so fortunate that Nemesio and Katherine, now joined by Barbara, have been pursuing these mysteries. And we will find out more today about what they have discovered. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. And thank you, Katherine and Barbara.
This is about the tunnels of Álamos. The Álamos History Association on December 2nd to share the research of Nemesio Figueroa. And if you haven't noticed, Nemesio's here with us on the Zoom with Humberto from the Hacienda de los Santos. Humberto is Nemesio's nephew.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Nemesio is a 79-year-old gentleman. He's the oldest of 13. He has 5 brothers and 7 sisters. He lives up in the Barrio La Campana, which is over by the Panteon. And he's a carpenter, and many of his brothers are carpenters. Rafael built all the doors for the front of my house. Nemesio's son redid the doors at the back and put in the kitchen cabinets. And while I'm up working there, I've learned from Nemesio about, he's a wonderful diviner, and he's checked out lots of tunnels in Álamos, been able to divine them. And we started walking through them, and we decided we needed a map. So I hope you all had a chance to print out these maps. I'm going.
This isn't a blank call.
I'd like to orient you real quick on it.
Because it's just a blank screen.
What?
The TV, this one do YouTube TV.
Should I keep going?
If everyone else but Katherine can mute themselves, it'll probably go smoothly.
So if you see my little arrow, here's the plaza, here's the church, here's Madero coming up to the plaza, the museum is right over here. And what I'd like to do today is go over these, I've labeled them tunnels A, B, C, D, and then spend some more time on G and H. These tunnels, well, I guess A, let's go down to A. This is the back of the hacienda. Here's the arroyo. So it's before you go over to the other property where the cantina is. And B starts at the beginning of the hacienda. And they go up under several homes. And who knows why they have them running so close parallel together. C is the longest tunnel. It starts at the Mint, or it's Escuela Palita Verjan now. And it runs all the way up under the museum, around the corner at the Las Palmeras, around the corner at just before Kissing Alley, that's the Robles house, and then down to Alcorn House. D is over here at Escuela Bartolome, and it goes over to Rip Torn's house, which are the offices of the old Palacio. And then we'll get into G and H later. So these tunnels, we don't exactly know why they had them, but we're assuming lots of different reasons they had them. One would be to move people.
You're gonna keep it there?
Another would be to move ore. There may be railroad tracks in some of those tunnels. And another would be to move soldiers and armaments. Okay, so we're going to go over tunnel A now. Oops. Oh, I guess we're going to go talk about the divining. No one really knows why divining works. It maybe they think it has to do something with the electromagnetism of the current of water running. That makes sense. But when Nemesio can detect water running, he can detect electricity, he can detect metals, and he can also detect a change in density. And the tunnels are a change in density. Come up to one side, and you've got a wall and everything, and then you've got, maybe it's filled up with something, but it's a different density where the tunnel is, and then you come up to the other side of it. if you look, he uses, I mean, the witching that you always heard about is someone with a birch rod that's a triangular thing or whatever, a Y thing. Nemesio uses metal rods, and you have to hold them tight enough, don't go swinging wild, but loose enough, swivel if you need to. And when
Catherine, could I interrupt you for a minute? I'm just getting a lot of feedback. I'm thinking Justin, if he could mute himself. that would
David
be
and Carmen,
Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
oops, David and Carmen, can you guys put your mute on? Carmen, can you mute yourself?
And Justin's iPad.
That's David and Carmen Diaz. Anyway, okay, so we started out at Escuela Palita Verjan. I wanted to give Barbara and Tom an idea of what was going on with the tunnels, and they got out. Again, on the tunnels, this was tunnel C. We were in front of the school. He comes up and walks to this side of the tunnel and puts them, and these metal rods swing in, and we felt it ourselves. Again, the electromagnetism, no idea why it works. Nemesio, I can get it sometimes, but it's not as consistent as Nemesio is able to do it. Okay, so he comes up and walks to this one side and puts a mark down, and then he comes around to the other side and puts a mark down, and he knows that the tunnel's there. He can tell, so he can tell the width of the tunnel, and then we went inside, and he does it again and he keeps doing it until he gets no more markings, so he knows the length of the tunnel. And then when we are able to tape and interview Nemesio, we'll figure out, but he can also pretty much figure out how the depth is. And I believe it's when he starts detecting the change in density, it has something to do with how deep the tunnel is. So let's go through tunnel A first. If you look, I've got a picture of the back of the Hacienda de los Santos where the arroyo is. It's my understanding that there's a swimming pool right back here by the bridge. And then where you go from this structure into the next structure, there's a well. And that's most of these, many of the tunnels come up in the wells. In fact, I think all of these beginning ones start in the wells and the first two end in wells. So it starts at the back of the Hacienda de los Santos before you cross the bridge over to the cantina. It goes under Margot Finley's house. It goes under the Los Tesoros, and there's an adjoining tunnel that tees into it that comes down Calle Obregón, and it goes up. It goes under the Los Tesoros and comes out at the Casa del Obispo. Well, excuse me. It goes under Craig Fisher's house, which was the old Obispo bishop's house. Comes out at, I can't even see, this is all mixed. Is it, it's not the La Mandarina, is it? Yeah, Casa Mandarina. Again, that comes up in a well. Craig, did you want to say anything about the tunnel running through your house? Was it ever found when they excavated the pool?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Yes, when they dug our pool, someplace about I guess it was deeper than 4 feet, they got into a tunnel. And I now have also spoken with Bucho, who knows about that tunnel and where you can get into it. And I've often thought, that'd be a real kick. Dig down there and get in that tunnel. It goes right through a room that is reinforced and probably at one time was used for either arms or was a gold or silver bars. So,
Thanks.
but we are pretty certain, since we have multiple people who have been in it and seen it, that it's real, and it was found with witching, which I certainly don't believe in, but I have to now because he definitely did identify the tunnel.
we need to get an interview of Bocho. Okay, now we're going to go on to Tunnel B. It starts, I've got a picture of the front of the Hacienda de los Santos and that fountain right up at the beginning. And I tried verifying it with Jim. Unfortunately, he's in Navajo today, but that was this may have been the site of the main well. There was a main well up at the front of the property, and that's where that tunnel came off, exited, entered. In our interviews with Nemesio, we'll figure out, because Jim says that Nemesio detected a tunnel that went from here, I mean, just about the same level, over to the Mint house, or the Casa de la Moneda. But anyhow, we need to verify that. So this tunnel, again, it starts at the front of the Hacienda de los Santos. It goes under Margot Finley's house. It goes under the Los Tesoros and comes out at the Wentworth Compton house. Okay, then the third tunnel, Tunnel C, which is the longest, it starts at the Mint, Casa de Moneda. And it runs under the Hotel Colonial. I don't have a picture. And then, really interesting, here's the plaza, right across from the plaza, kind of behind the Las Comadres. There's a little placita in there. And back in the corner, there's a bank. And yeah, I don't know, maybe 50 years ago, there were workers on it and the floor collapsed and the wheelbarrow went down along like 5 meters. It went down, and the worker, I think, started to go down too, but he didn't go down all the way. It was Sammy who did all the wrought iron work, little lamps and things. Nemesio and Ursula Beltran and I went and interviewed him. He's passed away since. And he'd gone down. He was the one who got stuck going down to retrieve the wheelbarrow. And he reported that it was all brick lined with brick arches. Now a little bit of conflict with the supervisor. We interviewed him too, who didn't go down in the tunnel, but he said that there were railroad tracks in there, which could make sense because the Mint was here and the old assayer's office was up here in the corner where the old Las Palmeras was. And so they could move the ore around or the coins around. Just a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, during one of their rains, I've taken a picture of the floor that had fallen in. It was not quite in the same location. This is in the Alcorn building off of that placita. They got it repaired right away. Anyhow, then it goes under the Museo de Costumbrista and the place that's now Álamos Bonito, that used to be the Las Palmeras. It turns and goes around through the Robles house and then comes out at the the Alcorn house. And this needs to be verified, but I think there's a dip in the road here. And some people thought that, Nemesio can tell us on that, thought that might have been from a sagging due to the tunnel. And then I'd like to do D. Okay, so here's the plaza, here's the museum. Behind the museum is Escuela Bartolome, and just down from it is the Rip Torn's house, the back of it especially. In the front of it was the old Palacio, and it's my understanding that the offices and everything were back there, or living space or whatever. Anyhow, if you go into Escuela Bartolome, there's an open patio, and then toward the back, there's a dropped patio. And in that wall facing Rip Torn's house, it's now plastered over beautifully, but Rosario, who ran for mayor in Álamos and lost, and then later ran for mayor in Navajo and won, and she's just stepped down from that position. She was director of the school at that time. I kind of assumed it was a blocked in wall and you could see it and they were going to replaster it nicely, but I don't, that needs to all be verified. Anyway, when they were redoing that wall, they opened up that entrance and she looked into it. Now, back at the flood, now maybe 90 years ago, it was worse than our Norbert. And these tunnels supposedly all filled up with sand and dead animals, and the tunnels were horrendous. And so people would intentionally be blocking them off to stop the pestilence, stop kids from entering them. So that's one of the reasons that these tunnels have all been blocked off. And now, generations later, we have high officials that say that there's no such thing as these tunnels. So these stories that we get from people are going to be really important. Then, if you come over to this side of town, or this side of the plaza, this is the Navarro house. This is Noe Plaza or Calle Madero. And here's the hostel. And from the hostel, there's a passage or an opening or a deal in the wall that looks like a passage, and it heads up to the Casa de la Cultura. And here up at the Casa de la Cultura, it's a big square building that used to be the old fort before it was a jail, before it was the Casa de la Cultura. There are 4 gardens, circular gardens at the corner of the Casa de la Cultura. And this one goes into the circular garden there. And then recently Nemesio found another tunnel, was detected, heard about, and then detected another tunnel that comes out of this other circular garden and goes up, comes out beside Diane Carpenter's house. Okay, then I'd like to get in details on that. So here's tunnel G, and you can see here's Navarro's house. And then you go down to the hostel on Calle Madero, and you get the hostel. And then at the back of the hostel, up here is the passage going up to the old garrison. And then you follow the tunnel up there and you get to the Casa de la Cultura. And here's the circular garden. And the pictures I've taken, I hope can help you guys do your own walk. I hope that you'll get up there and see these yourselves. So here we are at the Navarro family home. Apparently it's in a big dispute now, but Dr. Navarro let us in, and we actually had a really nice interview with him too. Here we are inside the patio, and in the middle, Nemesio detected the tunnel right in the middle there. Dr. Navarro said that 40 years ago, his family had heard all about the tunnels, and they finally excavated, and they found the entrance right where Nemesio showed where the entrance was. I'm assuming Dr. Navarro remembers this as a kid, so he can tell you about it, and we'll need to interview him. But I'm assuming it again was filled up with the sand and everything, so they never did anything about getting down the tunnel. Then we go down Calle Madero, and here's the hostel, and in the door, here's the hostel portal. And if you go out to the patio in the back, there's that wall. And on the wall is the passageway that's kind of blocked in. So then we went up on top of the hill. We go back to the map. So here's that passageway, and I assume the hill goes all the way along this property line. Then it goes up, and this lot is a bare lot. These are all bare lots. There's a house here. There's a fence, a corner of a fence here that the tunnel clips a little bit underneath, and then it goes up across the garden, front garden of the Casa de la Cultura. To get there, there's a neat road. You can get down beside the Palacio, come up. There's a road here. You can take this road up and I'm trying to see where the road is where we parked. Oh, we parked up here. Anyhow, behind the Palacio, there's a road. You can here it is. Here's the road. And this road continues on down around, and there's a wonderful Revolutionary War, Civil War, I think, statue there. Anyhow, so to get, if you can either walk it, or if you're driving down next to the, here we go, down next to the Palacio by Coquis, you go up, and the first right you take. We drove this. I think Barbara was a little bit worried about the drive, but we drove it, and then parked here and walked up the rest of the way. When we came down, though, we walked down the staircase and went back to get the car.
Katherine,
Yes.
The monument is to General Rosales, who died in 1863. And it was during the period between the, I guess, liberals and conservatives. But anyway, that's who the statue is for.
It's a beautiful, beautiful walk. So when you go up there and check that out, kind of look down from this hillside. Here's a road that you take up. And if you, Nemesio's figuring, if there's a little piece of paper, that's where one side of the tunnel was, and he's detecting the other side of the tunnel here. And down the hillside are the trees growing out of the back of the hostel garden.
Kathy, isn't that right behind the Mraz house? That monument?
Errol, do you know?
Yes, it's right back there. It's on that road that Catherine's talking about. You go past Sam and Carol's house, there's a little road that goes up, and that's where it is, the memorial.
So here we are above the hostel. And then here we are just below the Casa de la Cultura. And then here we are down next to the Casa de la Cultura, and the house is on the left with the fence. And Nemesio is detecting the tunnel crossing through there. It, like, again, it clips this block fence and then goes up across the front of the garden at the Casa de la Cultura. Here, I'll do it again. If you look, here's that block fence. Nemesio was standing right here. Goes over to that. Here's our corner garden that it comes out. Maybe there were spiral staircases, but again, oh, do I have a map? No. Let me go back the map. So on this area, all the soldiers, the officers were quarteled, or they lived down here. And then the regular soldiers and all the armaments were up in the fort. And this helped move the soldiers around without probably being vulnerable or quickly. And then the last tunnel is that little J. Here's the corner garden. It went out there, comes down here. And then that ruin that is next to Diane Carpenter's house, it comes out before that, right there. Again, oh, here it is. So that other corner garden, it comes down. Here's Diane Carpenter's house, and here's the walkway down to the back of the Palacio. So it comes down pretty near. So in conclusion, I can't read this, so you guys get to read it yourselves. I say follow the tunnels. If you want to see the most beautiful and historic buildings in Álamos, follow the tunnels. I say thank you to Nemesio for his unflagging pursuit of the tunnels of Álamos. And thanks to Barbara and Tom. Tom had to go out there and with the map and find a bunch of the photographs that we have in the piece here. This is Craig Fisher's house, a photo by Errol Zimmerman, just incredible.
One of the things that always puzzles me, Kathy, is why don't we get into one? We're talking about it, we identify it, find bricked up portals, you know, just why don't we get in? Once you get into one, you can get into a lot.
Yeah, Nemesio has a wonderful theory or idea. If you come up here to the H, especially with all the vacant lots, it's one of the deepest tunnels and maybe more expensive to get into. But if you had an entrance here and came out at the Casa de la Cultura and had people going through that, and then had a map with plaques on all the rest. Then the worst part of that is here we have all the miners with all their equipment for detecting these tunnels, and it's never been done. So it's a mystery.
According to Buccio, if you look at the house across from the Boers on Kissing Alley, you can get into a tunnel, and he's been in it, and it's rather easy to do. So I would talk to Buccio and verify what he's talking about.
Do you think they're talking about this corner in the Robles house then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that tunnel is probably one that has been seen by more of the Álamos people. I know Javier Boers talked about that. Jose Robles, that I know well, is our neighbor as a kid. he said they could get into the tunnel at that point, the Robles house by Kissing Alley.
So
I wanted to say one other thing. We don't know why the city and Sonora has not tried to restore them, but part of it has to do with permissions, and we all know about permissions in Mexico. And that's why it makes good sense for the Tunnel H. You would think there would be fewer problems in excavating that part of the tunnel than any of the, you get down in the La Plaza de Armas and, there are a number of conflicts on who has a right to do this or that.
well,
Okay.
I don't mind anybody coming in and digging in our garden. So, and I own it. But I think there are several places where you can easily enter
That
these tunnels.
the Tunnel D, the Escuela Bartolome to Rip Torn's house is the most superficial and the widest. But then you have to see who's, the ownership. And that's even easier to get to than up on the hillside. But going up to the hillside wouldn't be bad. Does Nemesio have anything to add? And does he have anything to say about the Robles tunnel? Nemesio, ¿tú conoces esta esquina de la casa de Robles y el túnel que entiendo que gente pueden conocerlo?
No puede entrar porque no tiene por dónde entrar.
He said that this moment they can enter because it's not a door to enter, but
Pues no tiene por dónde entrar, no así.
it's not open the main gate for the enter to that tunnel.
They have not given him access.
No, no
Okay.
te dieron nada.
Errol, maybe you can help on that if your neighbor Robles.
Está destruido la entrada.
Se taparon toda la entrada ahí.
He said that the enter to that tunnel is closed. They closed everything that is not possible to enter. They have
Okay.
to make a door to enter.
Barbara has some videos she might be able to show us. I'll stop the share.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks so very much. And I'm going to share my screen now. What I captured while I was on this journey with Catherine, actually, I was just taking notes so that I could remember some of the details. I find that taking a video and talking into it at the time is a good way for me to look back later on and remember what I'm seeing. Well, it turned out that some of these turned out to be interesting enough so that I thought, let's put them into a little tiny PowerPoint. I'm going to let them pretty much explain itself. But I want to first of all thank Nemesio, gracias por llevarnos así por un viaje de exploración. Yo comprendí mucho. Entendí mucho. Anyway, and thank you, Catherine, for inviting me. Tom and I crawled around with Catherine. If any of you want to just do an amazing morning, go follow these guys. And so let's just see what my video said. So here are the tunnels of video, just kind of my notes. Okay, now he has put the divining rod inside something that isolates it from his hand, and he's moving forward. He obviously has a lot of experience holding it steady. Whoops. And now it turned completely around and is acting like a windmill. Look at this. Oh my goodness, Nemesio. That's amazing. Let's look down on the ground and see. He's saying that there's metal in here. It's a little bit. So this is a response to metal.
En el puro centro tiene.
Okay.
Entonces es la verificación que es metal.
Que acarreaban aquí monedas y acarreaban piedras de oro para fabricar la moneda. Oro, plata.
¿Y los carriles?
Sí, los carriles, o sea que eso un solo riel. Quiere decir que era una carrucha que rodaba sobre el riel así.
Okay. There's a possibility that from here, which was the mint, up to this was the assayer's office. There's a way of getting the stuff across, and there may be railroad tracks in there.
Interesting. We are standing right next door to the Hacienda de los Santos.
Which is
And
where-
very good. Perfect. Thank you.
So this was really a lot of fun watching that windmill. I was just like, wow, look at that. I've never seen it. It
Can-
was perfect.
Can I didn't show it, but this is a new device that Nemesio's come up with, and it specifically detects metal. And I think it has sand in it somehow, but with this metal, it can't be touching him, whereas other bars, he's touching them. Brand new thing, first time I've seen it.
Anyway, it was lots of fun for me to see this. So essentially, the next time we went to the Casa Navarro and we went inside, and Dr. Navarro showed us his interior patio. So I'm going to, first of all, move this to the first little clip that shows Nemesio divining and kind of showing you where he's spotting this. And when he finds something, he's got a piece of chalk that he takes in his pocket, and he gets down and he writes on the ground. And then eventually he usually does it from two different directions so that you can kind of see the space in between. So let's just watch him do his thing.
We are now in the Navarro house. This is the back part of the house, one of the oldest houses in Álamos. And Nemesio is once again plotting out where his divining rod is giving him information. It's a beautiful old house. They're in the process of getting ready to sell it. The parents owned this house for many years.
And then we got an opportunity to talk with Dr. Navarro himself, who had just finished up with a patient and let us in, and gave us a chance in English to tell his side.
Could be 40 years ago, more or less. I was a kid. My dad and my relatives was trying to find something here because all the people say in these old houses has some treasure, gold or something. And we was trying to find something there, and we discovered the tunnel exactly the place where he is marking.
Right
And
where
we
he
saw
marked it.
that damaging because it was building with woods, with something that we call vigas. And it was wood, with the time with the water, that was damaged. But what the wonderful is someday somebody replace or how say restore the tunnels to make it richer the history of the town.
Has anyone ever used infrared technology to also go in and study the trajectory of that?
Not here.
Not here.
Not
But
here.
that would be a very interesting way to do it as well, because
Sure.
there must be a way to look at the disturbance of the land or the tunnel.
Yeah.
So very interesting. What was this, a family home?
Yes, family home. And with the time it was a town movie. We have
A town movie?
Yeah, the movie of the town, and it was hotel too.
Okay. How many rooms did the hotel have?
15.
Okay. Very nice.
And it was for poor people because some of them prefer a bed here on the
Outside.
outside.
So this is the natural air conditioning, right?
Yes.
Exactly. At night, it's wonderful here.
Yeah, because farmer from the ranch was coming to sleep here, or poor teachers when they just began to Álamos, when they was just starting to teach, they had no money and they preferred to come here and sleep here.
Very interesting. You know, when farmers bring their goods to market, I was just in Spain, and they had similar places where the people were coming from the country. They wanted to stay for a day or so. So they had a place just like this where they could come. Was it relatively inexpensive?
Yeah.
So they left their load, they spent the night, they had a good dinner.
Yeah.
And then they went back to their country and they came back.
Sure.
So thank you very much.
This was so much fun listening to him. I can see where people get so excited to have the natural interviews with real people on the ground, interviewing Nemesio, interviewing Bacho. That would be wonderful. So anyway, I wanted to take you now to the block door. and
Three
in the
sides,
hostel.
yes, I do, both sides, and it's filled in with rock. This was the entrance, this is the bottom entrance that, of a tunnel that goes up to one of the corner gardens of the Casa de la Cultura. And all along here,
This
starting,
goes up to the Casa de la Cultura up there.
yes. So next
Okay.
we'll drive up there and look at it from down below. We'll look
Thank
at it from
you.
up.
And thank you to Jim for holding back the plant that was covering it up. Thank you, Jim. And here we are up on the hill. Now, this is the hill that you saw, that very same picture. And if you look down, you will see in the distance, and looking down, you will see the trees growing out of that very same hostal that we were in just a moment ago. So we've come up quite a ways. And here is the picture of him, and this is just a
We
short.
are right up now near the Casa de la Cultura. The little road there, he just right now had those paths cross. And look in front of him. Do you see the blue paper on the ground? That is what he found to begin the tunnel from the other direction. Okay.
And the trees.
Katherine was going to tell you about looking in the distance, seeing the trees come up. I tell you what, I never knew that little street behind the Palacio was there. And it is one that reminds you that maybe you just hope nobody's coming in the other direction. So now we're going to head north to the actual Casa de la Cultura itself. And here we go.
We are now at the Casa de la Cultura. Nemesio is walking off a line and he's watching his own step. And there he found the distance of that tunnel. And they're going in this direction so that we can turn around and now go all the way down to the end of this property. Comes out on the other side of that wall. So this is quite a height relative to the street in the plaza where this all began.
So I just wanted to share with you, as you can tell, these are not intended for professional use. Over the lens on one of them, you know, the audio is back and forth, but these are snippets of video that really beg for greater. This little particular view on the right has got nothing to do with a tunnel, but we stayed in Mireya Hayward's house, which I believe Ellen and David stay in at the end of Obregón as it intersects with Comercio. And every day we saw this part of the cathedral looming in the distance. And this particular shot was taken at dawn one day. Look at the light on that and the detail on the different things I never noticed. You just sometimes need to have these wonderful photographs to keep it in mind. Thank you, Katherine, for involving me in this. And I look forward to seeing it. And hey, Craig, we had no idea that we now have permission to dig in your house. I'm coming with a shovel.
And by the way, you can see some of the plates that they used to put in the cathedral. Have you seen them? The women donated plates. And you can see some of them are still there. Others were shot during one of the many skirmishes. But some of the plates are intact, and it's really fascinating to try to pick them out. And you can do it if you look at the corners of that church.
I have actually seen one in a telephoto photograph of one of the plates. So yes, I have seen one of those, but they're hard to see.
They are
to either be up there or getting some kind of remarkable thing. So there you go. I will mute myself.
Oh, well, I want to thank both of you, Katherine and Barbara, for this wonderful presentation. I want to say that there are legends about the tunnels that probably are not true. I know I heard at a meeting, this was not Katherine's presentation, that the tunnels were used for the priests to move from one location to the other during the Christian War. But of course, the Christian War was in the 1920s after the revolution, and the tunnels were blocked in the flood that Katherine mentioned, which was actually 1879. So the tunnels were not open in that time. And sometimes people, the dates don't match up, but there is so much evidence that these tunnels exist that it's just a shame that we do not have more research and do not have a restoration of some kind.
Carl, can we get a copy of the map? Where can we get a copy of the map?
Well, a copy was sent to you in yesterday's email. I sent a JPEG, which you can print.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, that map is wonderful. And we need to enlarge that map, and place it somewhere in Kathy's corner or in our research library so that it can be better displayed. But all of you on my list there should have a copy of the map. Okay. Other comments?
Catherine, this is Emily. I just, would you please go over again the reasons that you listed for the tunnels being in existence? You were kind of breaking up and I didn't get all that.
We think it was to move people around, to maybe move ore or metal or coins around, and also to move soldiers and armaments around.
Thank you.
Catherine,
Yeah.
do we have a sense for the, say, average depth of these tunnels underground?
That's a good question. Nemesio, quería decir qué profundo están estos túneles, cuántos metros.
Pues de la casa, no es de las comadres ahí donde se hundió el túnel. Dicen los que vieron ahí que es aproximadamente 6 metros de hondo.
6 meters.
Okay.
¿Y qué profundo es lo de Escuela Bartolomé hasta la casa de Rip Torn? ¿Sabemos?
Sí, bueno, ese en la escuela sale en la pared, ahí en la tapia, sale en la tapia, no está profundo, sino que arriba hay un alto arriba, es de nivel, allí tiene una profundidad muy leve, así quizás unos 80 centímetros hay de tener arriba nomás.
But very superficial.
The question goes to Barbara's point is, have we looked with more sophisticated and scientific tools? And these tools are evolving all the time. I know Jim Swickert and I have talked about it and the possibility of getting certain kinds of radar that can look into the ground, and the depth is important to understand that. But
Steve, the person that built our pool said that they got into our tunnel at about 3 to 4 meters.
that's shallow. We could find that, the ground seeking radar. It'll do roughly 10 meters. The technology I'm familiar with.
No, that's, they use radar, it's ground seeking radar.
I think they're all that superficial. There's not, the only one that's really deep would be the one going up to the Casa de la Cultura.
Yeah.
I know the Murat's house, when they were doing work on their pool, Sam told me that they could see part of the tunnel there, either near their well or near their pool, and the depth was not very far down. But, and that's on Madero Street. I think most of you know where the Murat's house is, and was part of that, connected with moving soldiers from one place to another.
I'm hoping that we can document, these people that go down in the wells, what side of the well is it on? How big is that entrance, and get a camera down there? Anyhow, get that documented better. That would be easy, I would think. And then they have these spiral staircases going up, or a ladder going up out of it. Who knows? At one time.
Emily?
Oh, I was just gonna say, you're talking about the Miraz house, and there's nothing listed on the map here about there being any kind of a tunnel close to their home. So that must be another one that hasn't been recorded yet.
I thought that one of the, and I don't have it in front of me here, but I thought it went along Madero Street. Catherine?
Yeah.
Down as far as the hostel. So it sounds
Yeah.
like we need to get Nemesio out there.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Or, okay, I'll talk to him, or Barbara will.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? This has been so wonderful. If there are any other questions, ask them, you know, and we've got our experts here. And I just want to thank Katherine and Barbara for their work. And this is a beginning. And I see from this meeting, we've got to give more emphasis with our History Association. This is a very worthy project to do more research and to help get the state of Sonora and the city of Álamos more involved in this project. Anyway, we do have, oh, our time is, anyway, we still got a little bit of time, but next week, December 9th, is something you're not going to want to miss. And that is that Trini will present on you know, the Virgin of Guadalupe, which the day is on the 12th. And Trini would like to have a live meeting there at the hacienda, but so many of us are gone, like here. And so those that are in Álamos, and I see Pam Stewart is there in Álamos, I need to reach out, and we'll need to get a greeter, and if we are going to have the live meeting, because Trini would love to show his mass, pass them around, let people see them. But it may be, I'll let you know, it may be just another Zoom meeting here in December. Now in January, we will then all through January have both live and Zoom meetings as we did in November. Okay, Pam, do you have anything more to add before we close the meeting? Pam Price, no, you say. You're still muted, but anyway.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Ellen, did you have a question?
Yes, the cobble street that goes up and then below, well, it connects past the monument to the general to Sandra and John Sheedy's house.
Yes.
And then there's a staircase up, and then there's the cobble street down to where Sam's house is.
Yes.
And that could be a loop.
Right. Yeah.
Because why would you just have one exit off the hill?
That's true.
So that
Very good point, you know, and we'll need to send Nemesio back and do some more research on where these tunnels are. Well, I want to thank you all for joining. It's just been wonderful, and what a great presentation. It has been recorded, and I'll be sending out a note this afternoon thanking our leaders, but also with a link in case you're going to want to see this again, I think. And
Right.
So anyway, I'll send the link out, and I hope others who couldn't be with us, especially Jim Swickert, can see this, and Jim would have added so much. Jim told the story before about outside of the Newsom house, that there was a cave-in down to a tunnel, and I think Craig knows about that. And Jim told the story of different things that were found there, and you know, so that'll be on this presentation will go on and on and on, and as information comes in. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to end the meeting, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And until next week, okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.